This week on Dance of Joy, we wonder, what is sheep dip? What is an 80s woman? And what does it mean to buy a farm? All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 18 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I am one of your hosts, and joining me, as always, is my brother and co-host. What's up, Imran?
Yeehaw! Hello, listener. Hi, Sophia. I'm excited to be here because, podcast medium is wonderful because you can experiment, try different things. Oh, we're going to be trying something different.
We are indeed. We also have with us today a third co-host, our special guest, who is our very own sister cousin, Uzma. Hello, Uzma. How are you?
Hi, guys. I am doing great.
So you might be wondering, what is a sister cousin? And it's very apt that we have Uzma with us because she to us is as Balki is to Larry. Our relation is similar to what Balki and Larry's
sort of
cousinship is about. And if you forgot what their cousinship is about, we'll take you back to the very first pilot episode where Balki says, "I am Balki Bartakamas. Philo, my fifth cousin, 3 times removed, is the step-uncle to your father on my mother's side, 2 continents removed."
Yeah.
And Larry says, "I see, so we're sort of related by rumor." So that's kind of what Uzma is. We grew up together. Would you say we have a similar relation to that?
Very similar relationship. We call ourselves friends from the womb. We've always said cousins, and as soon as someone asks, "How are you cousins?" we have no answer for them. We just kind of change the topic.
There is some, married relation between our family and your family, but
we're just longtime family friends. And yes, Uzma, I'm glad to have you here. And I told you just before, I kind of had a feeling you were going to be our first guest on the podcast. And yes, for many years, I actually thought we were cousins, and I didn't know that we were related.
We are,
because
we're sister cousins.
No, I'm saying
you and
actual blood. It was our families, our parents were friends, and they grew up.
Yes. Our dads were very close,
but
so
that's
why.
the thing in the Eastern cultures, in South Asian cultures. There, everybody's an auntie, everybody's an uncle.
And growing up together means we also did something else together, which is watch a lot of television, which is how we all got here to this show.
That's fantastic. And so Uzma's going to hang out and add some color commentary with us as we dig into Season 3, Episode 18 of Perfect Strangers. This one titled, Bye Bye Biki. Get ready for some heartbreak, everyone.
Get your tissues out. Tissues out. Grab your pillow to squeeze. This one there are some good laugh moments, but it's a heavy episode.
I get a feeling we're all going to be getting hit in the feels by the end of this.
Yes. Okay, so let's see what this episode was about. If you were about to watch this episode in 1988 and you opened the TV guide, you would have read this description. The most difficult task for Larry concerning the impending visit of Balki's 106-year-old grandmother isn't coping with the cow, goat, and chickens in the apartment or the eels in the bathtub, but giving Balki the bad news. Grandma Biki died when she got off the plane from Mykonos.
Oh, boy.
That is a very lengthy description and uncharacteristic of how they usually are. It's a lot of words right there, and it also gives away the whole plot,
which we're going to find out what happens.
Which it doesn't typically do, but yes, it's a heavy episode. We know this.
Of course, the show starring Bronson Pinchot as Balki, Marklin Baker as Larry, Rebecca Arthur as Marianne, Melanie Wilson, Jennifer Lyons, and wonderful guest cast appearances from Belita Moreno as Lydia Markham and Jo Marie Payton's lovely Harriet Winslow.
Yeah, we have a little more character development with one scene between these two and their dynamic, which is a fun little exchange.
And here's something that's weird, as we kind of mentioned in last episode. These airings and the order, the episodes are on Hulu, the way they're listed, is all kind of wacky because they aired out order.
What date these episodes aired or when.
This episode originally aired before the last episode, Pipe Dreams. February 24th, 1988 is the air date when they were still on Wednesday. And now I'm even questioning if Pipe Dreams went to Friday or maybe they moved to Friday.
Yeah, we might have to make that announcement again.
But it is at the end of this season where they moved to Fridays, and then the next season TGIF gets started.
All right. In any case, we are doing our show in the order of the episodes on Hulu. The air dates are sometimes confusing to us, but
before we begin, let's set a quick baseline for Uzma. Real quickly, how much do you love this show, and what do you remember, like growing up watching the show? What do you remember now?
Oh, I love this show. I remember watching it every single week with all of TGI Friday. We also watch Family Matters every week.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in this episode that comes up later that I distinctly remember watching live.
My God,
like one of my memories of the show.
Oh,
yeah,
that's great. We got one in this
along
episode.
with another one. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because this was like such a bleak episode. We'll get into it, but that's good to know.
Yeah, it's weird that this one, because the last couple of weeks we talked about these episodes that were so iconic for everyone growing up, like the Bibi Babkas and the pipe dreams. But it's weird that this is one that stuck with you. Super interesting, and we'll look forward to that moment when we get to it. Okay, Act 1. Let's do it. We start Act 1 in the apartment. It's morning time, and we know it's morning because Balki and Larry are running late for work, and Larry's banging on Balki's bedroom door, and he says, Balki, come on. If we don't leave for work right now, all the really good donuts will be gone. And that's sort of the opening little joke. I guess it's a laugh. It's a nice laugh.
That's the only reason to show up on time. Come on.
And then Balki runs out of his bedroom and he's like not finished dressing. So his like shirt is unbuttoned. You get this like this whole opening scene, his shirt is open the whole time, which I thought was weird. I'm like, is this just like a gratuitous chest hair shot for Brunson
in his
Pinchot?
contract? He's like, I need to show my t-shirt underneath.
It's not tucked in. He's got his socks and shoes in his hands. His suspenders are hanging down. He's just like rushing, I guess.
He's a disheveled mess.
Yeah, and there's like no explanation for why he's late, and I don't even know what that serves in the scene.
I don't know. I've been there though. I could relate to that. I've mornings like that.
Just to show Bronson Pinchot's chest hair.
But then the phone rings and Larry answers the phone, and you hear on the other end go, Balki!
Balki?
It's the same way we heard a high-pitched woman's voice, the same way we heard whenever he talks to Meepos.
It's usually his mother.
It's usually his mother. Balki is still rushing to get dressed, and Larry's like, I think it's for you. I think it's from Meepos. I hear chickens in the background. And Balki rushes over and starts talking Meeposian. It is a call from Meepos.
And you hear him say, Dazo Yaya. And then Larry gets excited. He's like, is it your mother? Because that's where we've heard this Balki before. And he says, no, it's my Yaya.
Oh, of course. That explains it.
And then he just looks at Larry and he explains it's my grandmother. And then so he's like holding the phone off to the side. He's telling Larry it's his grandmother. And then from the phone, again, we hear Balki. And he goes back to the phone and he has this whole long conversation in Meeposian and he's getting very excited. We don't know what he's saying, but the conversation ends with, okay, bye-bye, babe.
Bye-bye, babe.
Which we may have heard once before, but this ending a Meeposian conversation on the phone with his mother with bye-bye, babe becomes a running gag later on throughout the show. Every time Balki talks to his mother. So this might be the first time.
Did anybody translate the Meeposian? What did she tell him?
Well, she told him, Balki tells us after he hangs up, he says, the most wonderful news, my Yaya is coming to America. And Larry says, well, that's great. Grandma Bartakamus is coming to America. And then Balki goes, get out of the city. She's coming too.
So this is not this is the great grandmother, right?
No, it's his grandma on his other side, on his mother's side.
Oh, on his mother's side, he explains. That's right.
He says, Yaya Bartakamus is not coming to America. This is my Yaya Biki from my mother's side. And Larry says, wait a minute, is this the Yaya Biki who's 106 years old? And Balki, having learned sarcasm by now, says, no, this is the Yaya Biki who has a lounge act in Vegas.
Balki's humor has gotten a little more sophisticated.
And one of our listeners in the group pointed out this was a missed opportunity to say Vegas.
Oh, yeah, he didn't say Vegas. That's
normal Vegas.
So Yaya Biki is 106 years old, Balki's mother's mother, right? If I have that right now, finally.
Yes.
So Larry's like, isn't this trip going to be too much for her? And Balki's like, well, maybe for your average 106-year-old, but not for my Yaya. He says every morning before the sun come up, she takes the goats 6 miles uphill to graze them. Then she come back down the hill and cook breakfast for 26 men. And then after the 26 men go out to the field, she does 45 minutes of low-impact aerobics. So you see, for someone over 100, she's very much an 80s woman, which is a great pun right there.
It's a great like double entendre because on the one hand he's saying she's 106 but she acts like she's in her 80s. But on the other hand, he's talking about low impact aerobics, which was a big deal in the 80s. And like I feel like in the 80s people were talking about 80s women. Like no other decade where you're like, "Oh, I'm a 2010 woman."
Yeah, I think it was like kind of when the alpha female started coming into play, women in corporate workforce, women in their business suits. So this is what I think he was talking about, that, she is the strong woman.
80s woman was like a category in the 80s.
I didn't even know that was a term, alpha female. I like that. I don't think I've ever actually heard that, Ozma. This is
of course you haven't.
Why would I?
Yeah, why would
I know about alpha
but
female?
It's the woman in her power suit.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So he's saying his Yaya Biki is a powerful, in charge woman.
She's over 100, but she's very much 80s.
She's running.
And I also love how he's trying to get dressed, and by the end of this, he's not really dressed, and he's got suspenders over his jacket, the Trapper Keeper jacket.
He's a hot mess today. Balky's a hot mess.
Going to work. Looks like a ridiculous person.
Yeah. So then we fade into the next scene, and we're back. We're still in the apartment, and it's a bit of a later date. First, we get a close-up shot of Balky at the fireplace, and he's hanging a wreath of garlic. Then we zoom out a little bit, and we see that all around the fireplace, there's like so much garlic and all these other plants. I think there's like a huge stalk of Brussels sprouts on the mantle as well, and then all this garlic hanging over the mantle, and then hanging from the mantle down toward the floor are like a bunch of cast iron pans, like where you would hang Christmas stockings. They're hanging. And then in the fireplace is like this big cooking pot. And then we have some very crafty camera shots.
Yeah, this is great.
To follow Balky from the fireplace across the set into the kitchen without showing the back of...
It's a close-up, yeah.
It's not only a close-up, it's a close-up plus an extreme angle.
Oh, right.
Facing the other way toward the kitchen.
Right.
I watched this like a few times. I was like, how did he cross over without us seeing the back of the living room? But anyway, crafty shots. Balky goes to the kitchen. There's all these like tomato plants, whatever. Then we cut back to the door of the apartment, and Larry comes home. And then he looks toward the fireplace. We pan out just a little bit to see the garlic, and he's like, oh boy, shakes his head in exasperation, whatever. Sees all the garlic, and he hangs up his jacket. And he turns around to face toward
this is so great.
The kitchen, and the camera pans out so that the audience, we, the viewers, and Larry at the same time see what's in the living room. And what it is a cow, an entire whole
cow in the living room.
And Larry's just come face to face with this brown cow in the living room behind the couch. First of all, I said this in the Bibby Bobka episode too. How big is this living room? This apartment just keeps growing and growing.
There's room for a full-size cow. It's a fantastic reveal. I can't imagine when
they did it
watched
so well.
This the first time, I would have spit. I had done a spit take. Ozma, did you remember? You probably remember this reveal, but can you remember the first time you saw this and there's just a cow standing there?
No, I don't honestly remember the first time with the cow at all, but it was hilarious this time around.
It wasn't the cow. Yeah. I'm going to try to pinpoint the moment that stuck with her.
No, she'll tell us.
I know, but I want to guess before we get there.
Yeah, you can try to guess.
Let's guess
see.
As we go. I thought it would be the cow. Okay, it wasn't the cow.
That's not the cow.
Okay, but the cow is hilarious as it's mooing and chewing its cud, as cows do. And Larry just goes, Balky? Kind of like his Yaya Biki.
Kind of the same way Yaya Biki says it. He goes, Balky?
And then I love this line where Balky shoves his head between the potato plants and he's like, what can I do you for? Which is
such an obnoxious Americanism. What can I do you for?
And it was so like, I remember when it was catchy and clever for a second and then overused. Yeah. And Larry's like, can we have a chat? As they go and they sit on the couch. And we find out Larry's like, look, I can accept some of the things that Balky has done to make his Yaya Biki feel comfortable. The 100 pounds of garlic, it's fine. He goes, fresh eels in the bathtub. I take showers. It's fine.
Take a shower, yeah.
And then before he says another word, Balky just goes, it's the cow, isn't it? And then I love how he goes, the cow bothers
bothers me.
He's trying to
I
be
love that
polite
part,
and
too.
tactful.
Yeah, I just love how he just felt like so guilty that this cow was bothering him. He couldn't even get himself to just say that.
Like,
what is
get
this
cow out of
Yeah.
my house.
He-
What
look,
are you doing?
He didn't want to offend any Miposian traditions
Yeah,
in
he's
his
very
defense. Good for
well,
him.
I don't know. At times in the past, he's been very dismissive
has.
about me posing
Yes, he has.
and rude,
And-
downright rude.
But sometimes he's very respectful.
But when Yaya Biki's involved, he gets all respectful, I guess. And Larry's like, look, I feel you. I want Yaya Biki to feel at home too, but maybe we should show her the American way of living. There it is, Larry.
He's gonna bring it
maybe
back.
we should show her
This
the
is
American way of
America, Balky.
And he says things like, I don't know. Gee, what exactly can I think of? Oh, beef on the table instead of beef at the table. And then the cow gets offended and moves. And Larry's like, sorry to the cow. And then he asks Balky, can we get rid of the cow?
It's pretty funny. Pretty funny scene as Balky.
So it's weird to me, like all this stuff, and he just really doesn't like this cow.
Everything else. Look, what do you mean?
Why
There's
is
a
he
cow
so good? The cow's just
because
standing
the
there, it's not
cow
doing
is
anything.
I mean, it's a cow. There's a cow in the
But it's
living
just
room.
standing
And
there.
also, I was thinking about how did he get the cow up into the building?
How did they get the cow in the living room?
Did he have to take
Does
the
it climb stairs?
Yes. This is very. I was like, kind of
Freight elevator?
fit through the door. Unbelievable. How do you lure a cow?
Oh, yeah. You'd have to squeeze it through the door.
I wondered this the whole time. But look, Balky tells Larry he's trying to give Yaya Biki like the comforts of home and experience.
And it's a very well-behaved cow, too.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything. He's just his tail. He's just chewing.
That cow actor was
Just chewing. He should
very
get
well
an Emmy. And then Balky shows Larry this blanket he made for Yaya Biki, a lot like the blanket he made for Larry in that Christmas episode.
Yeah.
Because I weave it myself so she won't get cold while she's watching Letterman. She loves David Letterman. I love that detail.
And Larry's like, okay, it's beautiful. And then Balky shows him also this old-timey wooden rocking chair that he got that is just like the one Yaya Biki has on Mipos. And then Larry there's like an awkward pause here. And then he's like, which someone pointed out in the group might have been like weird editing, but it's just like an awkward pause. And he says, look, I don't mind the chair. I mind the cow. So again, we're like fixed on this cow. And then Balky goes, fine, let's 86 the cow. She's just a rental. Yeah. Now, I want to pause here because I feel like this was an opportunity. I was surprised that the writers didn't mess with or do some wordplay misunderstanding about this 86ing meaning to cancel or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant. Like I've heard it in restaurants and orders, in
but
the back
he's
of the kitchen.
Actually just used it properly.
Let's 86 the cow.
Don't you think it would be funny if he was like, let's 96 the cow
let's
or let's 76 the cow?
No, sometimes Balky knows exactly the references.
Sometimes he knows the references.
And then he's got a great line where he gets concerned. He's like, cousin, but you should know that there may be a penalty for returning her unmilked. And Larry's just like, I'll chance it. I would have loved to see Larry milk the cow. That would have been hilarious.
That's a whole nother episode.
Balky and Larry on the farm milking a cow. But you know what? I do. There's a point to be made that like Yaya Biki's coming all this way just so it looks like Mipos. What are you doing, Balky? You're gonna show her some American things.
Yeah,
much.
Larry's got a point.
I do like the line of rope going across the back hallway with the bread, the rolls of bread hanging on it. I wanted to try the bread.
There's like a lot going on in this apartment. All right, so we cut to the next scene, and we are now in the basement of the Chicago Chronicle where the guys work. And this is the morning of the day of Yaya Biki's arrival. And then we pan over to sort of Balky's mail table area, and we see Balky leading Larry, Lydia, and Harriet, who are standing in front of him in a round of a song. And the song is For She's a Jolly Good Fellow, translated into Miposian. And I don't know how to describe any of this, so we're just going to play the sound clip.
Everybody sing along.
And he's conducting them. They're standing.
Perdida irinki halahap chap yap yap. Perdida irinki halahap chap yap
yap yap.
Perdida irinki halahap chap yap yap. Eine och vidrivoi poi dimene baba sticky.
I think it's funny that it ends with Baba Stiki.
Yeah, of course. That's funny.
I want to know what Uzma thinks of the word Baba Stiki. I thought it was a derogatory term, but it's ending at the end of the song now. Have you used Baba Stiki in your, are you trying to bring it back? Are you using it in your everyday life there?
What a load of Baba Sticky.
I need you to do that the next time someone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I'm
will
going to start
that.
doing that now.
Yeah.
I will do that.
Let's work it back into the vernacular, people. Come on.
So they finish singing, and Balki is very pleased, and he's like, very nice. And he's like, I think it translates well into Miposian. And then he's like, starts to rush, puts on his coat. He's got to run out to get more stuff for the party. He tells everyone to be at the apartment at 7 so that when they arrive with Yaya Biki later, everyone can all jump out and yell surprise. And then Harriet's like, is that a good idea to surprise a woman and yell at a woman who's 106? And then Balki, we learn more about Yaya Biki. Balki says, no problem. Yaya Biki is as strong as a sea turtle.
Are they strong?
Of course, she has better legs. Are sea turtles strong?
Yeah, I had no idea what that. I didn't even imagine that he would say sea
I
turtle.
mean, they live forever,
they're
and they've got
super
these
strong.
solid. Those giant tortoises.
I know, but like I was imagining him to say ox, especially because there was like a cow in the living room or something, and I was like, sea turtle, you never think of as strong.
Sea turtles can their jaws are strong. They can break your fingers.
I mean, Mipos is an island, so maybe they say sea turtle, but they're like ancient dinosaur Godzilla creatures, man.
Yeah,
Those
they're
things are crazy.
dinosaurs for sure.
They're huge.
But he says she's strong as a sea turtle. Of course, she has better legs.
Oh, of course.
They're always talking about legs. His legs are the hottest legs on Mipos. Yaya Biki has hot legs. Like, it must run in the family. Just a little more color about Yaya Biki. He also reminds everyone to bring their dancing feet because Yaya Biki loves to party down. And then he runs out, exits the scene to go get more stuff. He's like, I got to go buy a couple pounds of head cheese. Do you know what head cheese is, Imran? Or Uzma?
That's the nasty looking thing with the little squares in it.
It's like meat jello.
It's a meat gel.
It's very big in like former Soviet Union. I've had it in Russia and Central Asia and stuff. But they don't call it head cheese, but that's what it's called in English.
Is it yummy?
No.
Okay. That's all I need to know. That's all we need to know.
It's weird, but
that's the important part.
You eat it.
I'm surprised that you're saying something isn't yummy.
I love everything.
Well, I eat most things. This is true.
I'll try anything once. Come on. So Balki leaves, and there's a nice little jab from Harriet to Lydia, reinforcing their character dynamics, of course.
Yeah, a little opportunity to build their dynamic.
Lydia's like 106 and strong as a sea turtle. I wonder what I'll be like when I'm that old. And then Harriet's like probably a lot like Yaya Biki, which Lydia takes as a compliment.
Yeah, she's touched.
She goes, why, Harriet? You think so? And she goes, sure I do, honey. You're already starting to look like a sea turtle. And she gives her a look and goes into the elevator.
Harriet.
And also Lydia's wearing like aquamarine colors too, which I thought was interesting.
She is. Okay, so that's our little exchange with Lydia and Harriet. And Harriet leaves to the elevator where she works. And then Larry's desk phone rings and he answers it. And it's a call for Balki and it's the airline. And he offers to take a message. And then we hear his side of the conversation, which is quite somber. And then he hangs up and Lydia says, what's wrong? And we find out that Yaya Biki got off to change planes in New York and her heart stopped.
Oh, no.
And she's dead.
And now everyone is sad.
And now everyone is sad. And we
episode.
fade to black at the end of Act 1.
Listener, if you want to join the conversation and let us know how sad you were, or leave us your observations on the episodes we're recording, or meet fun Perfect Strangers fans like Uzma and the other people who are in our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes. I post a thread there every week on the episode we're recording, so you can leave your little comments and theories, and we will share them. Uzma, you're enjoying the group. Isn't it crazy how many people kind of dig this like we do?
Yeah, it's awesome. I read it every week.
And everyone's really cool. It's very welcoming. Everyone's friendly, and there's some crazy theories.
There's crazy theories. There's explanations. There's questions. There's a lot of love and support for anyone who enjoys this show.
Act 2, sister.
Act 2. Where are we? We are back in the apartment. It is later that evening. Marianne, Jennifer, and Balki are decorating, putting the final touches on decorating the apartment. Balki is in a recognizable outfit, the vest at least. It's that black vest with all the gold embroidery and the tassels. I believe in the Balki Duds spreadsheet, it is titled Aladdin's Curtains.
That's Aladdin.
Is that the one we're
Aladdin's Curtains, I believe. And now we know that it's like there's no sleeves because he's got a red shirt on underneath.
Yeah, because usually we've seen him with that over a black shirt and it's just been all black. But here he's got a red shirt. That is Aladdin's Curtains, confirmed. Okay.
Yeah.
In the back of the living room, like at the wall behind where the couch is, Marianne is on a ladder and she's hanging a banner up that says "Welcome to America." And Jennifer is putting all these little American flags everywhere, like in the plants, and there's just like American flags everywhere. And then we get like a very quick and subtle physical comedy as the dialogue is happening. I actually did miss it, and I went back and saw it again. So Balki's like, we'll get to the dialogue in a minute, but as the dialogue is happening, he walks from front door toward the kitchen, and as he walks by Marianne just as she happens to fall from the ladder a little.
Yeah.
And Balki just catches her and throws her over his shoulder
and carries
and goes back to the door and then comes back and then puts her on the ladder as if nothing happened, like puts her back on the ladder. It's just like a weird thing, but it was kind of funny.
But very smooth.
And they're having
weird
dialogue the whole time. And the dialogue is about these potato chips. And Balki is wondering if 15 bags of potato chips will be enough. Jennifer's like, there's only 10 people coming. And he says, you're right. We need more.
Oh, boy. And then Larry enters the apartment, and Balki's all excited to see him. And, of course, we know Larry's got this bad news. He's going to have to break to Balki somehow. But he pulls Larry into the apartment. He says, cousin, look what we did. Does this say welcome to America or what? As he points to the banner that says welcome to America. And Larry's like, well, yes, it does. And then Marianne with the line, when Yaya Biki sees all this, she's going to die. And I was like, oh, boy, it's getting dark. The comedy's getting dark. I like it.
I was a little impressed with this line, with this joke, because like that's an intense joke about an intense thing, but they made it a nice joke and it's a nice laugh point here and it isn't too cringy. You're like, you laugh before you cringe.
Yeah, you're like, oh no. Well, there's some more dark humor coming up, and remember, like in the skiing episode, there was a little bit of dark humor when they all thought they were going to die. So sometimes I like it dips there. It's like something I don't know, you don't really see that anymore.
Biki sees all this, she's going to die.
I was like, ugh, awkward.
Yeah, awkward. So Larry has to tell Balki the news, and he tries to get the girls to leave in a very awkward sort of like 80s way, which this whole next part is like a statement on how the writers thought about women in the 80s as well. I don't understand why Larry could have just been like, I need to talk to Balki. Can you give us a minute? Yeah. But he doesn't do that because comedy. So he needs to get the girls to leave. So he says, Jennifer and Marianne, don't you need to hurry upstairs and change for the party? And Jennifer's a little offended. She's like, we have changed for the party. This is our party clothes. And then he's like, oh, and his next bright idea is to tell Jennifer that Lydia is wearing the same dress as her. And then Jennifer's like, oh, then I have to go change. And then he tells Marianne that Harriet is wearing the same dress as her. And she's like, I guess I have to go change. But it's like so weird. Who cares? Like the assumption is that women must change if somebody else is wearing the same dress.
They're not the same 80s women as Yaya Biki, I guess.
They're not as 80s women. They're not as alpha as Yaya Biki. So that was his ploy which I don't know. I didn't think it offered that much humor, and I didn't really understand this exchange in the script. I feel like he could have just been like, I need to talk to Balki.
But it did seem like Marianne did not care. She was like, I guess I'll just leave.
That's right. That's right.
Marianne wouldn't care if she were the same thing. Yeah, she's like, small world. But they're trying to shove in some jokes here because, look, again, this is a very somber episode.
But I didn't think this one paid off as much.
But they're trying wherever they can. They're like, we need to lighten this in spots because of what's about to happen here. And what's about to happen is Larry's going to have this sit down with Balki. Balki, again, it's just obsessed with the potato chips. He's like, is 15 bags of potato chips enough for 10 guests? He's like, I got 4 gallons of sheep dip.
I made 4 gallons
we talked about sheep dip. I want to try this. What does it taste like?
Sheep dip, which is a funny anagram of another phrase.
I imagine it's like a creamy dip that sounds meaty, tastes meaty.
Sheep dip.
Sheep dip.
Is it dip that's made of sheep, or is it something that you
dip
take a
sheep
piece
in.
of sheep and dip
Ozma,
it in.
best.
I was imagining like sheep cheese.
Okay.
And like a cheesy dip.
Sheep cheese dip.
Okay.
I
imagine it's made out of sheep.
Okay, I'll take the third option. I'll back the third theory is that it's a dip that you eat with pieces of sheep. It's a dip for sheep meat.
Oh, you dip the sheep into
dip the sheep
dip.
meat
All right,
into the dip.
We're
Sheep
in,
dip.
We're in the weeds with the sheep dip. Anyways.
Okay, anyway. Let us know your theories about sheep
And
dip.
if you have any good recipes, please forward them. We need something and then we'll finish with some Bibi Bupkas.
Yes.
Larry asked Balki to sit down because he's got to tell him the news. And Balki's like, okay, I guess I could take a break. He goes, I've been running around all day like a chicken with his head glued on.
Which this one worked. This one worked. This is funny. The phrase is running around like a chicken with his head cut off because chickens still run around after you.
However, if you cut a chicken's head off and glue it back on, it's also going to be running.
Does it stop running?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Or it runs around more. I don't know.
But that's a fun play on that phrase.
Is that what they do in Meatballs? They glue the head back on when it starts running.
They can't waste any chickens.
Put it back.
Oh, put the head back on. That was the wrong chicken.
Get the crazy glue.
That's Yaya Biki's pet. Glue that head back on.
Oh, my goodness.
It's possible.
Apparently, the chickens run around after you glue the head back on Meatballs. So Larry has to break the news, okay? So he kind of eases into it, and he says, Balki, the airline called. Yaya Biki is going to be late.
So I like this. He's softening the blow. He's kind of working up to it.
Or he's working up his own courage. I took it as that.
To his credit, he handles this very well.
Yeah. As I watched it, I took it as Larry building up his own courage to say the words. Like he couldn't say it. He was like, Yaya Biki is going to be late. And Balki's like, how late? And he goes, a lot. And then Balki can sense something's up and he says, what's wrong? And Larry tries again and he says, Yaya Biki is not coming. And then he takes a breath and he says, something happened. And like, I'm sure anyone who's ever had to deliver news like this can relate to this. It's hard news to deliver.
It's like a Band-Aid.
Just have to say
rip it right off, man.
So Balki thinks for a moment. So Larry has said something happened, and Balki kind of considers that. And then he goes, she bought the farm, didn't she? And Larry says, well, yes, she did. And then Balki gets excited. He says, oh, this is wonderful. She's always wanted that farm. Well, of course she can't come now. She's got to go out and buy sheep and goats and ducks and I don't know what else.
Oh, my God.
And Larry interrupts him and explains that bought the farm is an expression. And Balki says, well, of course it is. Don't be ridiculous. What does it mean? And we will come back to this expression in a minute. But Larry explains to Balki, basically, here's where he rips off the Band-Aid. Yaya Biki got off the plane in New York and died. And Balki just stares at Larry.
Silence. Just a long pause there.
In silence. And there's a long, heavy pause.
And actually, it's great because it cuts back to both of them and they don't say anything. It just cuts back to them looking at each other real slowly.
And usually when we have scenes of both of them looking at each other with no dialogue, it's for comedic heightening and we're laughing. But this is like a heavy,
sincere, like, oh.
Yeah, we're going in the other direction down. We're sinking.
In that moment, you're like, okay, he did it. How's Balki going to react? And Balki kind of like snaps out of it and he goes, okay, so we got 10 guests coming. 15 bags of potato chips enough? And Larry's like, Balki, did you understand what I said? And Balki says, yes, you said Yaya Biki is dead. But that don't solve our chip problem. Yeah. Obviously, he's deflecting, and he gets up. He puts on the Trapper Keeper jacket and leaves to get more potato chips. He goes, if we run out of munchies, this party's going to be a dud. And clearly, he's not processing this and doesn't want to and just runs away. I can relate to that. Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people can.
Yeah, and Larry looks confused, and that's where we fade out for the end. This was a super short second act, but I want to talk about this bought the farm. I actually started thinking about this, and as many phrases that come up in the show, I'm like, what does that mean, and how does that work?
Why did that end up meaning dying?
I think Uzma got the best, did the best research on this, so I'm going to toss it to her.
Let Uzma tell us.
So bought the farm means it comes from 1950s era Air Force term meaning to crash or to be killed in action.
Okay.
And it refers to the desire of many wartime pilots to stop flying, return home, buy a farm, and live peacefully ever
my
after.
God, that's so sad and tragic.
So, so I guess like what the literal meaning that it translated to, it said ironically, is that when the family would get their insurance payout,
they could buy a farm.
They would be able to buy the farm, so that service member was able to buy the farm and kind of pay off the loans and fulfill that dream for the family.
Oh my God! So it's figuratively and literally. Like I thought you bought the farm in heaven, right? You buy the heaven farm, but it's both things. That's amazing. Wow,
that is an intense
good research
idiom. Bought the farm.
Yeah, I never thought about where that came from. That's really interesting.
I don't really hear this being used as much.
No, it's kind of been phased out.
Dated,
it's a little old timey.
It's dated, but like as soon as they say it, you know exactly what it means. Like it's like
I know from the context of how they've done the dialogue in the scene where Balki misunderstands it, and then that's what gave it to me. I didn't know exactly. I didn't really get it exactly if it wasn't for the dialogue.
But if somebody said that to you today, you wouldn't understand what they were saying?
No,
really?
I don't think so.
Oh, I knew.
Now I will.
I know.
I think I knew what it meant.
I knew what it meant too. I would have understood.
I didn't know what it meant.
Behind. Yeah,
I didn't know the meaning, but I definitely knew what it meant.
Like if someone just walked up to me and said, like, Joe from HR bought the farm, I'm like, cool. Yeah. How big? How many acres?
What is he doing?
You'd be Balki.
I would be Balki. Yeah, for real. I don't know half of these things.
Is it a cannabis farm? What's he growing?
I'm like, cool. Is he quitting HR?
Can I get some fresh eggs? Will there be fresh milk available?
Can I get some duck eggs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, that's the end of Act 2. Will Balki be able to process his grief, listener? We're going to find out in Act 3. But first, I want to let you know, if you've been enjoying our show and looking forward to Friday's TGIF, thank goodness it's funny. Consider supporting the show. Visit our website, dancewithjoypod.com/support. There's a little buy me a coffee button. It's a little support button. You give back love and support of all the entertainment value we are providing every week and growing this fandom of perfect strangers that
we need the caffeine.
Yes, got to be caffeinated for the Bibi Babkas and the sheep dip.
And the sheep dip.
Definitely sheep
and
dip.
The head cheese.
And the head cheese.
You can't have head cheese without a good cup of coffee.
I guess not.
And all the potato chips.
And the potato chips.
Also, 15 bags. That's a lot of potato chips for 10 people.
And all 3 versions of sheep dip.
Yes. Act 3.
Okay. Moving on. Act 3. We start with an external shot of the apartment building with an overlay of words that say 3 weeks later.
Time has passed.
This is not something we see often on this show, but every now and then we see it. And how else would we know that it's been 3 weeks? But, Larry says it later, but anyway, it's 3 weeks later. 3 weeks. We're going to talk about 3 weeks in a minute. But Balki and Larry enter home to the apartment, and Balki is wearing a red clown nose and like a balloon hat, like the kind that people who make balloon animals make. Yeah. They make a little crown hat thing.
Yeah, they're fun.
And he's got that. And Larry, I might add, is back in the favorite like monocolor outfit of green on green, very green collared shirt, green jacket.
He's eco-friendly.
And we find out that Balki's very excited. They've just come back from the circus. Balki is going on and on about Joko the human fireball. And then he says, and the daring young man on the flying trapeze. What kind of a person would climb 25 feet up in the air and then just drop off and swing back and forth and back and forth? And he's swaying his arms and his whole body back and forth with this line. And then he goes, and then just hand himself to somebody, and he throws himself into Larry's arms, who just kind of grabs him.
He catches him. It's amazing.
Under his, by his legs, he just catches him. And they're face to face. And then Larry puts him down in front of him. And then Balki just leans his head forward, and the red ball nose touches Larry's, and it squeaks.
I wish I had the rubber squeak sound. It's so funny whenever it makes the squeak sound.
And if you look at Mark Lynn Baker after the nose squeak, he like bops him on the nose, and he is trying hard not to laugh. Usually it's Bronson Pinchot, but this one is very telling. Marklin Baker is like holding it in.
I don't think he expected that.
How do they hold it in? This is Imran, the scene that I remember distinctly.
We got it. This is the one. Tell us about that.
Tell us what you remember.
This is just when he's swinging back and forth.
Back and forth.
And then he's like, and when he says daring young man on the flying trapeze, because that was like it's like a folk song that, I used to sing as a kid. And I just remember him swinging and that intonation of his voice and jumping onto Larry. It's like such an iconic
Did you remember
Being in my head.
the nose squeak too?
No, I don't remember the nose seek too much, but that part I was cracking up at now. But like, yeah, that,
I love it.
swinging back and forth.
I love it because everybody had some part of this show burned into their
it's
head.
super interesting that this particular scene is what you remember. I have other parts of other episodes that just come back to me right away.
There's one other dialogue that comes back to me always.
I know what it is, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
It's not for another couple seasons. Okay, so let's talk about the daring young man on the flying trapeze.
That song, I remember that song too. That the daring young man on the flying trapeze. Yep. It's like it was sung to the tune of the circus music.
Yes,
kind of the circus
it is like
song.
a popular song from the 19th century.
Oh my God.
And the refrain is, "He'd fly through the air with the greatest,
of ease." That's it.
That daring young man on the flying trapeze.
The song. Oh my God, I remember.
First published in 1867. British lyricist, yada yada. It's commonly known. Uzma brought it up to me earlier. I didn't recognize this as a song lyric.
I remember.
I don't know
song.
where I was in 1867 under a rock somewhere, but I did not recognize these lyrics. But there is another fan theory about this line.
There is there?
About Balki giving so much energy, describing why a person would do that in the air. Because the previous year, Bronson Pinchot himself appeared on a show that used to be around called Circus of the Stars. You know how young listeners, as we have Dancing with the Stars today,
yes.
In the 80s, we had Circus of the Stars, where celebrities, instead of dancing ballroom dances, would do circus stunts. And Bronson Pinchot, I believe it's on YouTube, you can find this, did some trapeze work. So this was a little.
Oh my God, he was actually up there flying around.
Yeah, and like tossing himself into someone's arms. So this was a bit of an inside joke. Perhaps that's what many.
I
fans
remember
think.
this trend of these shows. There was like the Celebrity All-Star. They would be like Olympic Games against each other. It'd be like one a year, and everybody from TV
And then we just
movies.
settled on dancing.
And now, we're like, you
3
know what? We're just
decades.
gonna do dancing. Forget all that other fun stuff.
We just settled on dancing
No,
one.
they did Celebrity
Circus got
Ninja
boring.
Warrior, but the course was like really easy. Like they made it because
They did?
They did.
I would love
They did.
to. I want to see the Boston Robotics parkour robot do.
Oh my
Ninja
God,
Warrior.
he should go up against the Ninja Warriors. He could take
Anyway,
them.
that's our other podcast.
That's our tech podcast. That's our NFT Bitcoin podcast.
All right, back in the scene. We Balki's very happy. He's excited about this circus. And then he wants to do more stuff. He's energetic. And Larry's just kind of like looking at him like, what? And Balki says, cousin, I have a storm in my brain.
I love that flip of the.
And what is this? This is like brainstorming ideas. He has an idea.
Brainstorm, but he goes, I have
a storm in my brain. I'm going to start saying this at work. I have a storm in my brain.
This is just a hunk, but I have a storm in my brain.
Just a hunk. That's what I'm going to say too. And he's like, why don't we invite the girls? We'll rent a movie. We'll order pizza. And he's on and on with these ideas. And Larry says, Balki, a different kind of Balki than how we usually hear.
It's not a condescending
Yeah, he's
one.
like, why don't you give all of us a night off? And then he goes on to explain to the audience, but he's talking to Balki, that for the past 3 weeks, Balki has been dragging them to every amusement park and movie and video arcade and zoo and all this stuff all around Chicago.
So Balki has been putting off the grieving process for 3 weeks and
3 weeks.
running them ragged around
But we
the
talked
city.
about this 3 weeks. Uzma and I were talking about this. Do you want to say what you said?
3 weeks seems like a really long time.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
It's long for both of them. It's a long time for Balki to be ignoring his own grief, and it's a long time for Larry to not tell him about it. Larry chose this moment 3 weeks later to be like, Balki, listen.
In his defense, I bet Larry was like, look, we'll let him blow off some steam. A week goes by, and he's like, okay, maybe I'll give him another week. At least he cut it off in 3 weeks, didn't let it go for a month. But that's a lot of suppressed sadness he needs to deal with there.
And even now, Balki doesn't take it well. He says, well, excuse me for being fun. And after he says that, he pulls out this like slide whistle kind of thing. He whistles in his plastic whistle. He makes the whistle noise. And then he leans forward and squeaks his nose against Larry's again. I would watch this nose bop like for 22 minutes. The whole episode should be this nose bop. And then Larry just like is not impressed. He reaches up, he pulls the nose off Balki's face, then he pulls the whistle out of Balki's mouth, and then he pulls the balloons off his head.
But Balki's not done. He's got another idea. He goes, well, let's make some popcorn so we can practice catching it in our mouths, cousin. Yeah. And he goes to the kitchen. And Larry's like, Balki, you don't have to pretend you're happy around me anymore. And Balki's like, what are you talking about? I'm happy. And Larry's like, you're not happy.
I am happy.
No, you're not.
I'm happy.
No, you're not.
I'm happy.
No, you're not.
And Balki grabs Larry by the shirt, pulls him close, and he says, I'm happy. Now let it go.
No, that's not good. That doesn't sound happy at all. And then Larry's like, okay, fine. You're happy. Your yaya dies, and you're happy. It makes perfect sense.
Okay, so Balki then finally admits, I'm not happy. And then he says, let me explain something to you. And he tells Larry that on Yaya Biki's 100th birthday, she said to Balki, Balki, today I am 100 years old. Chances are I'm not going to make another 100. So funny. Yeah. In the middle of this heavy moment, they found this really nice joke.
Yeah, Biki's got a good sense of humor.
I'm not going to make it another 100. Yeah, hilarious. Anyway, he tells Larry that Yaya Biki made him promise that he would go on with his life. When she died, he would go on with his life as if nothing happened. And with that promise, she will be able to rest in peace. Mm. And Balki says, I promise her that, and that's all there is to it. And this is why he's been going for 3 weeks. He's trying to honor his Yaya Biki's, the promise that he made to Yaya Biki.
And Larry here is surprisingly supportive and logical and helpful and useful as he says, look, you're not going on as if nothing has happened. You're doing happy things, but I can see you're hurting inside, and you're trying to hide it. You can't hide it from me, Balki. I know you too well. He goes, when someone close to you dies, you have to mourn for them. And Balki just says, no. He doesn't want to do it.
That line is the one that hit me in the heartstrings when he just goes, no. And he sits down. Oof, so heavy. And Larry's like very insightful today and in this scene.
And we get an insight into the Appleton family.
Yes.
A sad story.
Yes, Larry offers Balki a story that he thinks will help him, and it's a story about an uncle of his whose wife had died, and he had a hard time getting over it. So he wrote her a letter telling her all the things that he wished he could say to her, and Balki says, and that made everything better, and Larry's like, well, it made it a little better. And he says, you don't have to write a letter. You could just talk to Yaya Biki. The important thing is to get it out and to say goodbye.
Oh.
And Balki, this is another one that hit me. Balki just says, I don't want to say goodbye.
Yeah, that was heavy. I think that's when the tears started flowing. Where he was just like, I don't want to say goodbye.
And Larry's offering solid advice, therapy advice.
Yeah, that is a very insightful 25-year-old or whatever.
Very good exercise. Write a letter, get it out, say goodbye.
Yeah, say goodbye, process it.
It's hard. And Larry goes, I'm only trying to help, buddy. He goes, I'm going to go tell the girls they don't have to come down tonight to watch you be happy. And he leaves. And then Balki gets up from the kitchen table.
That was another scene where they kind of look at each other for a long time.
He stands in the doorway and sort of looks at Balki, who's at the table thinking, I don't want to say goodbye.
Yeah. And I feel like he realized Balki needed some time alone, finally, to process. Yeah. So Balki, and then Bronson Pinchot's performance in this is great. He gets up from the table and he's like, what? Frustrated.
Yeah, this is great.
He walks all the way to his bedroom door and he just stands there and you see him just thinking. You see his back. He turns around and he comes and he puts his leg up on the couch and he's like, well, yeah, here we are. And he's like, oh, no, what am I doing?
I can't do this.
He turns around.
Yeah, it's really his acting is anguished. You can see that Balki's trying to do how do I talk to her? That's ridiculous or whatever.
You get that he feels ridiculous talking to no one and saying goodbye, but that he's hurting and he doesn't want to say goodbye. And then a third time, he finally slowly walks back into the living room and this time sits on the coffee table next to the rocking chair and the blanket he made, which is on the rocking chair. And then cue sad emotional music. Oh my God.
So this is where we would typically have lesson time, but it's not really lesson. There is a lesson in here, but I feel like the whole lesson time segment is replaced by Balki's goodbye to Yaya Biki, and there's sad music under the whole thing, and it's like a pretty long monologue. I don't know how else to describe it. It's emotional, so I think we should just play the clip.
It's so sad, and I want to hear Balki's voice. And this is how the episode just ends, on this crazy sad note. Here's Balki saying goodbye.
Here I am, in America, just where you wanted me to be. I know it was your dream to come here too. I just wish you could have seen more of this country. I was thinking, maybe you saw the Statue of Liberty from the window of your airplane. Wasn't she beautiful? I remember the first time I ever saw her. I was sailing into New York Harbor on the tramp steamer, and the sun was coming up, and there she was, just like you said, bringing light to the world. And it was the most wonderful day of my life. And you made that day possible. I am so blessed to have had somebody to fill my heart with such wonderful dreams, and then to help me to make them come true. Yeah. You don't make things easy. I've been trying to do what you told me to do. To go on with my life as if nothing has happened. But you don't understand how hard it is. Because you've never lost you.
He takes the blanket in his hands. He's looking at it.
I made this for you.
And I kind of wraps it around the chair. Like she's sitting there. And kneels next to the chair.
I hope you like it. Kosilari said that I have to say goodbye, and that I have to feel sad before I can feel happy again. And I think he was right. I miss you. I'm going to go upstairs now and tell my friends that I'm sad. I think that'll make them happy.
One last laugh.
Oh, yeah, they got it. One light laugh.
Bye-bye, Yaya. I'll see you again someday.
Oh, so sad.
Oh, so sad.
And then he leaves.
He leaves. He walks out the door. He closes the door, and the camera pans down on that empty rocking chair and the blanket, and the scene fades to black and roll credits.
You know what? I thought for a second, and maybe I just wanted this, I thought the rocking chair was going to rock a little bit. Just one rock, like someone touched it. But then I was like, okay, now it's getting supernatural. It's not necessary, but it would have been a nice touch.
It would have been.
Just the chair just rocked as the thing.
That would have been creepy.
It would have been creepy. Yes, it would have been creepy. Yes.
With a squeaky rock.
With the clown. That would be a scary.
Yeah.
Or maybe the clown squeaky nose sound as the chair's rocking.
Oh my God. But I did appreciate the joke at the end. That'll make them happy.
I'm going to tell my friends that I'm sad, and that'll make them.
It was so heavy that you needed to lighten it up. Look, listener, before we dig into our thoughts on this episode, get some podcast merch. You can buy Dance of Joy t-shirts and tote bags and stuff with our logo on it. Face masks. Visit our TeePublic shop. It's danceofjoypod.com/shop and get some comfortable, lovely winter and summer clothing. Everything's there, and it's a lovely logo. And send us a photo if you buy something. We want to see it. You know what else I noticed at the end of this? Biki said Larry was right. Oh, my God. Larry was actually right about something, and Biki admitted it.
Larry is right sometimes, every now and then. Every now and then. And, you have to flip the tables on these episodes every now and then so that Balki's the one that needs help. And I feel like they go back and forth.
Let's find out from cousin sister Uzma. Any thoughts on at the end of this? You did tell us the moment that you remembered, which is great. But overall, what did you think of this sad, heavy episode?
I actually really appreciated it. I love the acting. I felt everything both of the characters felt. Larry's anxiety, Bronson's Balki's sadness. Yeah. So I could feel all that. And I think the jokes all hit for me. So I enjoyed when the jokes came too. I needed them in those moments.
Yeah, like I said, it's a heavy topic, but I was impressed with how they found ways to insert appropriate jokes. A couple of them didn't hit for me, but most of them were funny and light and not cringy. Like death jokes. Death jokes are hard.
There's comedy
but how
everywhere.
do we feel in general? There's a question for both of you. How do we feel in general about these occasional heavy topic episodes for this show that we know and love and remember for all this light physical comedy and all this boisterous laughter and all this silliness usually. Yeah. And then every now and then we get these heavy episodes. Like we had one on sexual harassment. Yeah. Now we have one on losing a loved one. What do we think? How do you feel about that in this show in general?
I like it. I think it's important, and it's just different ways to address the topics, especially with Larry telling Biki how to deal with his grief. And then for me, it's a memory that I've had from this episode forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
we also learn more about the characters and about Meepos.
So, what I was going to say is I think these heavy episodes serve a couple of purposes. One is when you break up the slapstick humor with these heavy episodes, the slapstick is more meaningful, and the heavy episode is more meaningful. The second thing is these are very relatable topics. So all the heavy ones, somebody someone, or you've gone through this yourself, and then leads to my third point is that it helps you endear you to the characters even more when you see them in these situations and how they react. So I don't know, if it was all straight goofy comedy all the time, then you got the Three Stooges,
So interestingly enough, we have some devoted listeners who comment on every episode in the group, and the comments in the thread for this episode, it wasn't as long. There weren't as many comments because almost everyone said this was going to be a hard episode to watch, or this was some of them put it off and then finally watched it later because they were anticipating it to be hard. But most of our listeners who are leaving comments wrote about how this was tough to watch because it made them think of their own losses in their own lives. And by pure coincidence,
this is crazy.
We happened to be recording this episode, and this was not planned at all. It's just how our schedules worked out. But we happened to be recording this episode today on September 5th, which is the anniversary of a big loss in our lives, you and me, Imran and Uzma. Which was the loss of our father 25 years ago today. Today makes 25 years we lost our father to cancer. And I just think it's a wild coincidence that we happen to be talking about this grieving episode today.
And the speech he just gave, you could insert your loved one into that speech and you just lose it. It's the sincerity was there, the emotion was there, and then you just picture that person that he's talking to is the person you lost. And
I actually think this, recording this episode is a really nice way.
It's a little therapy
to commemorate the 25-year anniversary.
I can't believe it's been 25 years.
It's been 25 years. We were, if listeners are trying to do the math, yes, we were very young
And you get to that point in your life where you're like, I've been alive longer without this person now than when they were alive. It's kind of weird, but that's how time works. So, yeah. Uzma, you remember our dad also. We everybody hung out very little when you guys were little.
Yeah, just like these iconic episode. He was a very iconic figure in my life. I remember a lot about him growing up. I was at your guys' house every weekend, watching TV with you guys. So I was a part of a lot of time with him, spent a lot of time with him. And
he loved comedy too.
Yeah.
Like I got a lot of my comedic tastes from him showing us funny movies. Like he loved to laugh. So
I'm sure he loved Perfect Strangers as well. I don't remember.
No, he was a fan of like Barney Miller, Three's Company.
Yeah.
I remember he turned me on. I watched these shows because he was watching them. I Love Lucy. He loved the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
He loved the Jeffersons. That was like one of his favorite shows.
Nice.
So, and All in the Family, Archie Bunker. It was that, he had just come to the country in the mid 70s and did Norman Lear's sitcoms that were crazy, like stuff that you can't make today were popular at the time. I would have loved to have been alive to see how people reacted.
And he was a jokester too. He had dad jokes, multilingual dad jokes, I might add. But
I think we use some of them here. Sometimes they just slip out.
So that's just like a little insight into us, your hosts, and a little bit of a strange coincidence. But honestly, it wasn't planned at all. It just occurred to me that today is the day. We don't have any real rituals that we do to commemorate every year, but today is a pretty 25 is a even pretty momentous one.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We're fine. Everyone. We're fine. Everything's fine. It was a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Awkward.
Well, the whole episode is heavy and
I
awkward.
was about to say something to make it not awkward.
I don't know what to say to make it not awkward.
Baba Steaky. When you don't know what to say,
Tell us about all the people you've lost. No, let's just lean into the heaviness.
We got shout outs. It's going to get back to heavy.
Who has died in your life? Go.
Let's get back to the jokes and talk about the Balkyisms. We didn't have a couple of good ones.
Balkyism, I've been running around like a chicken with his head glued on all day. I have a storm in my brain. And we have one utterance of "Don't be ridiculous."
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
And one utterance of
"Get out of
the city."
Yeah, I used a lot of them.
What about "Bye bye babe"? Bye bye babe.
Bye bye babe. I think this might be the first time we hear it, or one of the first times, but it definitely stays. It comes up again every time, but it's usually when obviously it's not with Yaya Biki, but when Balki's mother calls, she always starts the conversation with Balki. And this is Balki's mother's mother, so it probably makes sense.
I'm sure we'll hear that
start
again.
The call the same way. And then it's always like a long Meposian conversation, and then he goes, "Okay, bye babe. Bye babe." And he just calls his mother and yeah, babe.
How about Dimitri? I spotted Dimitri. One setup of Dimitri was very obvious, and you could not notice him. But then the earlier one was kind of trickier.
The earlier one, he's on the bookcase in the back. He's wearing either a sweater or a yaya shawl.
Yeah, I think it's like a booby shawl.
Yaya type of shawl.
And then I love in the end, you clearly see him when they come back from the circus. You see him on the bookshelf, and he's got a red cloud nose on, and he's got balloons, and there's a little thing of popcorn sitting in front of him.
I still think that would have been the best job on the show. Is whoever does up.
We need to interview the guy who was responsible for Dimitri.
Every episode,
the Dimitri props master.
And
can we get a Dimitri? Can we find one anywhere these days?
Yeah,
you can buy them.
It's on Etsy.
You can buy them.
You can Google Dimitri sheep. I've seen it on Etsy. And speaking of getting a Dimitri sheep and Dimitri sheep, it is now time to speak about one of our favorite Dance of Joy spin-off Instagram accounts, which is called Dimitri Sheep, Dimitri Sheep, one word. Please go like and follow on Instagram. And this is an Instagram account from Dimitri the sheep himself. And Dimitri Sheep posts a themed photograph for every episode that we review, and it's always really great and clever. So let's talk about
this one's really touching.
Post for this episode.
Got to read the caption too. There's information in the caption.
Yes. So first of all, the location is marked as Heart of Chicago. This is the Bye Bye Biki episode. In the image, we see Dimitri the stuffed sheep with like a shawl with a like a
purple shawl
over the
like
head and a brooch on it, like an old lady brooch. We see a lot of like red, yellow, and orange sunflowers on the table, and a beautiful like embroidered tablecloth with an intricate like doily pattern on it.
Dimitri Sheep's wearing earrings too.
Dimitri Sheep is wearing Yaya earrings. They're like pearl earrings. And then there's a little Yaya jewelry box on the table next to Dimitri. And there's more Yaya pearls and other jewelry coming out. And then there's a note on the table. And there's like a doilied, what do you call that?
Like a handkerchief doily
handkerchief
thing.
on the table.
Yeah.
And the note on the paper says, "Be still my heart. Thou hast known worse than this." And it's a quote from Homer.
Wow.
And the caption on the image says, "This my real Yaya linen jewelry brooch and jewelry box that she give me before she die. Big love to everyone who lose a Yaya."
Oh, that is so cute. Big love to everyone.
Oh, big love to everyone who lose a
Dimitri
Yaya.
Sheep's actual Yaya's beautiful pearls jewelry there.
Yeah, Dimitri is a very progressive sheep. He wears earrings when he wants to honor his
looks
Yaya.
good on him.
Yeah.
You wear that look well, Dimitri Sheep. Well done. Another great post.
Dimitri Sheep, thank you for this touching post. Please go follow Dimitri Sheep on Instagram. We love it. Keep it coming. And now it's time for the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we discuss if this story were to happen today, how would the episode be different? Does it still hold up? Are there any updates to any of the elements? What do you guys think?
Let's ask Cousin Uzma. What do you think? You know the gist
Cousin
of this.
Uzma. I mean, today's episode, I don't think it would change much, except maybe the 80s woman line. You know, she's an 80s woman.
It'll be like she's a 2010 gal or something.
Does anyone know what happens when someone dies on a plane?
You have to go get the body wherever it is.
Somewhere. The Yaya Biki's body's in New York.
Airport. So, okay, so that may be a different thing. You have more like connecting flights, like straight through instead of like stopping. I don't know. I agree with cousin sister Uzma.
No, when you come international, I mean, there is we have an international airport in Chicago.
She should have came straight to Chicago.
She got the cheap tickets.
They couldn't afford the ticket. Yeah,
she got the cheap tickets.
It was stopping in Albany and then Connecticut and then Florida.
New York,
and then there were 7 more stops. She was going to die.
She was
never going to make it. But I kind of agree with this. But it's again another this is a timeless theme.
It's timeless theme.
I don't know.
It's about grieving.
I don't know if I change much. All of it still holds. There's still arcades. He goes, we went to all the arcades. They aren't really arcades, but
But there's everything else. Amusement parks, zoos.
Yeah. All the references are pretty, except for the 80s woman thing, and except for the idea that like women would have to leave to change a dress if somebody showed up in the same dress. Yeah. Anyway, that's the second time they've made a gag about 2 women in the same dress. Remember when Harry and Lydia had the same dress for the
I better be looking in the mirror.
Director.
That's a great line.
It's like a very 50s trope too. Like it would come up a lot in 50s sitcoms and
have the same
can't wear the same thing.
It's pretty antiquated, yeah.
God forbid we wear the same thing. Oh no.
I mean, listen, Uzma and I live in Washington, D.C. Ann Taylor Loft is like the uniform for all the office government workers in D.C. You often see people. I walk around all the time being like, "Oh, I have that shirt. Oh, I have those pants." Like because everyone's getting it from Ann Taylor Loft. Update: I have stopped shopping at Ann Taylor Loft and working in an office, so
office
I'm not one of them
store
anymore. All right, we have some shout outs, and actually, I was thinking about this. They are shout outs to our listeners who leave comments, but they're not really shout outs anymore. They're more like, let's hear what what insights our fans have to say about this episode.
Listener comments and insights. But this set of insights and shout out a little bit different this episode, obviously.
Yeah. Like I said, there wasn't as much commentary on this one. I think people just found it a little bit heavy and they appreciated it for what it was. Because everyone's, presumably everyone's lost someone. They know how this went. It was relatable.
Yeah.
People didn't feel like leaving a lot of comments, but there were some. And also, most of our listeners who commenting agreed that this was stellar, strong, emotional performances from Marklyn Baker and Bronson Pinchot.
Absolutely. I felt it. You felt it. Let's start with Cousin Evelyn, who says, my grandmother puts garlic everywhere. It's a very Mediterranean thing. It's meant to ward off the evil eye. When I went away to college, she knitted these little garlic cozies and filled them with heads of garlic.
That sounds delicious.
And told me to hang them on the hinge of my dorm room door, that anytime something mildly bad would happen to me, she would ask me if I was sure I had the garlic on the door. This sounds
I
very
really
familiar.
appreciated this comment.
Yes.
Very informative. Gives us a bit of insight on
It
garlic
sounds
cultures.
familiar to Asian superstitions we grew up with also.
Yeah, we had like evil
East
eye
Asian,
things
there's
to ward
evil
off
eye.
the evil
Yeah,
eye.
every
Not garlic, though.
every ethnicity has the evil eye and ways to ward it off, and there's like little witchcraft things to do. Cousin Evelyn also says this was much more serious acting for both guys. MLB plays the sensitive friend well. These are the episodes in which Larry redeems himself and makes us love him and forgive his devious Larry-splaining self.
Very good point.
Yeah, he gets
Very
brownie.
good point.
He gets brownie points.
We were pretty annoyed with him last week.
Oh my God.
With with pipe dreams.
Yeah.
All right, cousin Pam Hitchcock brings up an interesting point that has been raised before. She writes, "I still say Balky has more chemistry with Jennifer, but he dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
Phew. I don't understand what bullet he dodged.
Because Jennifer maybe is a little high maintenance and he's
right.
better off with Marianne. I don't know how Larry
Right.
and Jennifer put up with each other. I don't know how they're going to put up with each other. Because,
Yeah,
like you
the
said,
coupling
do they
is,
even like each other? I don't know.
Balky and Marianne are a much better couple.
They're
I mean,
great.
but Balky does have. I think she's saying Balky has more chemistry with Jennifer than Larry has.
Just
with
acting
Jennifer.
wise. Uzma, let me know. Who do you ship more?
Yeah. I know when I read that comment, I was like, I totally agreed without realizing that that's so true. He definitely has more chemistry with Jennifer.
Who do you ship more? What relationship do you like?
What team are you on?
I'm on the Balky Marianne.
Yeah, Team Balky Marianne.
Sure,
Absolutely.
they just seem like more fun.
I would want to hang out with them.
I don't know who Larry would even have chemistry with, like at all, ever.
Who do you think you're talking to? Somebody nice?
And this comment from cousin Pam also reinforces what I've been saying, is that like I don't believe that Jennifer's really into Larry every time. Like the whole first couple seasons, he would try to kiss her and she would awkwardly just like turn around and leave. Like I don't. They're officially together now, but I still don't believe it. It's not believable to me.
Yeah.
She's like not like swoony all over him.
One of these days, Appleton will get her. He'll get her swooning.
He will. He will.
He'll get her gushing with
All right.
gratitude.
And then we have cousin John Adama with some interesting points. He says, you don't get a lot of sarcasm from Balky. I like it.
Yeah.
This is nice. Balky does have some sarcastic moments in this episode. It was refreshing and nice to hear and see.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I'm a bit on Larry's side here. Biki has already seen all this, but she's probably never had a Whopper. We spoke about that. Yeah, it's
Land
good.
of the
She doesn't
free,
want to.
home of the Whopper. That's the opening
She doesn't
line.
want me posy and comforts in America. And then he also writes, nice change of pace to have Larry be the emotionally mature one. Even better to see him actually care for Balky instead of using him. Very good point.
Yeah, because we
Agreed.
saw 2 episodes of him getting used. Great comments
Oh my gosh.
from
yeah.
our listeners. Before we wrap up, I want to ask Cousin Uzma one more question. Have you been watching the show along with us from the beginning again?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so far, you had to pick one favorite episode so far. What would you pick?
Well, I mean, I have really recent history memories. So the Bibi Babka episode, just every single thing about that
Absolutely.
was just the comedy, the timing, the acting, the physical stuff. I mean, I just couldn't get over it.
It's a classic.
I was cracking up.
It's a
Like
classic.
I couldn't stop laughing.
I don't know what's better, that or Pipe Dreams. They're both very close tie now.
What about earlier?
Earlier, again, the karate, the episode where they learn karate and Balky's a ninja
Oh,
waiting
yeah,
for him.
yeah.
That is
yeah.
hilarious.
That was a good one.
There's a lot of good stuff also earlier that we forgot about that I really enjoyed.
I'm
So
going back to look
yeah,
right now.
it's hard. It's hard. But those 3, I mean, the ninja Balky is another thing that I remember my whole life was ninja Balky
Yeah.
waiting for him. And then the early season 1 episodes are really funny. But
I think my favorite ones and the ones that have stuck in my head we haven't gotten to yet.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
I
they're
can't
coming.
wait. There's still more.
There's one or two in particular, but we haven't gotten there.
I love we're in like the peak seasons of the show when it was super popular and super funny.
Yeah, this is definitely peak. I remember a lot of these. Like
Yeah.
Baby Bopka, I remember some of this, and then later ones.
The later ones I don't remember too much, so it's going to be interesting when we get there.
That's because they were.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. But listen, we'll find good stuff to talk about.
We'll find out.
What's next week, sister?
Next week is Balky is cheered up again. Balky graduates.
Oh, from night school,
something.
finally.
From night school,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. Join us next
We
week.
got to thank cousin Sister Uzma. Thank you for hanging out with us. I hope you had fun.
I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Big thanks to Sister Cousin Uzma for joining us today. This was fun. We might have more of our cousins on the show. That would be fun too.
Like actual cousins?
Maybe. No.
We do have an actual cousin who is a big fan of the show. She's in the group as well occasionally. She writes under an alias sometimes, but I think in the group it's her real name.
I love all my extended cousins that listen to the show. We're all cousins.
We love all our cousins. Everyone's a cousin. All right. And as always, please, 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 if you're still with us, if you're enjoying the show, if you're enjoying the sound of our voices and laughing with us to perfect strangers, please visit our website. It's danceofjoypod.com. There you can find all the links to where to find the podcast, where to like, subscribe, listen. You can leave us a rating and review us in Apple Podcasts. You can leave us a voice message from that website. There's a little button on the bottom right of our site. Say hi. Tell us what you think. Answer some of our questions. Tell us what you think sheep dip is. Is it a dip made of sheep or a dip for dipping sheep in? Or is it something about cheese? Who knows?
That's going to keep me up all night long.
Leave us a voice message about sheep dip, please. And if you don't like the sound of your voice, you can send us an old-fashioned electronic email at the address danceofjoypod@gmail.com. Also on our website, you can find links to all of our social media accounts. Please like us, follow us, share it with a friend. Oops. Also on our website, you can find the links to all of our social media accounts. We're on the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams. Please like us and follow us. And Imran, what is the most important thing that a listener can do?
Oh, well, if you are gifted a mogwai for Christmas, keep it out of direct sunlight. Don't get it wet. And whatever you do, never feed it after midnight.
A very dated piece of advice. What is the second most important thing a listener can do?
I love gremlins. Share the show with a friend. Spread the dance of joy. Joy. We all need joy right about now. Little laughter, even though this was a heavy topic.
This was a heavy episode, but we will get back to the joy next week.
We're going to get back to the joy. Thank you for listening, and now we are all so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Die, 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 die.
Hey, 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 hey.